Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Ray Renati, and you have reached Green Room on Air, my little corner of the various internets, as George W. used to say. Hope you're doing great. It's a rainy day here where I am in Palo Alto, California. Looks like it's the middle of December, depending on which language you speak, or Pig Latin. December Day. Yeah, I used to speak Pig Latin when I was a young boy for fun. I don't anymore. I'm kind of rusty with my Pig Latin. But maybe I'll get on that and improve it. And I'll do a whole show in Pig Latin. Who knows? Who knows? Hey, guess what? Today, we have a very, very special guest. He is someone who has actually made history in his life and in his career and has been a trailblazer for the LGBTQ community in California. He's an all-round entertainer who's been in the business for years and is just as comfortable on stage or in front of a camera or a microphone or in a recording studio, anywhere where entertainers abide. He's been entertaining audiences in some of the biggest radio markets in the country, Los Angeles and San Francisco, and on the #1 radio stations in both markets, KFI in LA and KGO in San Francisco. Well, KGO isn't really #1 anymore, but they were for years. Now they're a sports betting radio station, and we won't talk about that because it's a travesty and it pisses me off. Anyway, not only that, but my guest has written for Billboard magazine and has even been a featured artist in Billboard. That's right. He's also been with the HuffingtonPost since it started and has published 2 books. Not to mention being an editor for magazines such as The Advocate. You might have seen him on every major cable network as a guest, or even caught him as a pioneer in the recent trend of reality TV for 5 years on cable. And wait for it, he even has an app. That's right. He has a very successful podcast that's number 200 in Canada. That's pretty darned good when you consider the fact that there are between 3 and 5 million podcasts out there. And my guest name is Karel. Many of you may know him from the radio, very successful Karelcast podcast. Karel, Charles Karel Bouley, but he goes by Karel, just like Prince goes by Prince, Madonna goes by Madonna, and Elvis goes by Elvis. All righty. So without any further ado, as they say in show business, let's get to it. So I was just thinking we can just talk about, your career and things and everything that you're doing now. Yeah. I'm right with you. I think that you and I are, like a year and a day apart in age. I think your birthday is November 7th. Is that right?
It is. Yes, it is.
The only reason I know that is because mine's November 8th.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And I think I'm a year older than you. Yeah.
I'm 60.
Yeah, I'm 61. So, yeah. So I share a lot of your health concerns. And one of the things I love when I listen to your show is I feel like I found a comrade in arms, as it were, in terms of all that.
A 60-year-old body, they pretty much behave the same way or misbehave.
Yeah. And in terms of diet, like every little thing you eat.
Yes. Or don't eat.
No,
put down the cookie.
Yeah, either goes on the body or it doesn't, depending on what you do with it.
Yeah, it's funny. Cynthia Stamper-Graf, who runs Lindora Medical, she once told me that if chocolate cake appeared like as a lump in your body, like just sort of popped out of your hip, right after you ate it, you wouldn't eat it.
You would never eat.
But because cookies, cakes, and pies, accumulate all over gradually, then I'll have the So now every time I eat something bad, I'm like, oh God, it's just going to pop out of my shoulder or something.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, for me, it's all goes to my midsection. Like I have no fat anywhere else on my body, but you've encouraged me a lot to really watch my diet. I am not a complete vegan now, but I know
well, I'm
meat.
a vegan, but God knows if I'm complete.
Well, I don't eat meat because of you. I do not eat meat.
Well, don't eat meat not because of me. Don't eat meat because it's filthy.
No, just because of you, listening to you so much about that.
Well, the data is just every day the data comes out that confirms it. And, more and more in the entertainment industry, I find that, entertainers are heeding the call. In fact, Oscar, Grammy, Emmy, Tony, all of the awards dinners now at the dinners, they're either all plant-based or, in fact, the Spirit Awards were just all plant-based. There were no non-vegan options. And that's because A, sustainability, but B, a lot of people in entertainment now have made the switch and continue to do so. The biggest, Lizzo yesterday gave a shout out to fat vegans because, she's a vegan, but she's heavy, so she gave a shout out to all the fat vegans. And I thought that just sounds like a restaurant chain, fat vegan, it's time. The planet wants us to, our bodies want us to, all the research says, cardiovascular wise and just, all other organs in your body like it better. Unless you eat Oreos and stuff all day. But, just following a plant-based diet, it's the way. And, you got to have more energy nowadays. I was just telling a friend, in the entertainment industry, I used to fight being gay. That was always the big obstacle. Oh, you're gay, you're gay. It's like there was a news flash. Of course, but now I'm white and 60. And so there's all these different, there's always something to fight, which means that you always have to have stamina to do it, because the only people that survive in this business are the people who continue going. I mean, many a fabulous singer, actor, dancer, broadcaster, broadcasting used to mean spreading seeds, by the way. All of these people, many fabulous people have just stopped because they're tired of it. They get tired. They get tired of the rejection. They get tired of having to just cattle call. What's his name? I can see his face. I know his name. He's been in a million things. But, he still auditions. David Arquette still tapes auditions at home, and does videotaped. I mean, he's fucking David Arquette, and yet they still require him to audition. It's like in Streisand's song, Putting It Together. A Stephen Sondheim song, Putting It Together. Everything you do, you still audition. And it never ends. I mean, she couldn't. That's a great case right there. Barbara, her whole career, wanted to make her last movie be Gypsy, and she wanted to play Mama Rose. She could not get it funded. Just could not get it funded. And so now it will probably not happen. She's 81, 82 years old. So she'd be Grandmama Rose. So it's probably not going to happen. Yeah. And when you're Barbara Streisand and you can't get a movie made because you can't get it funded, because people don't know, how's it going to be? Do people want to see? Because her first movie, Funny Girl, and she wanted it to be the last Gypsy because they're written by the same people. Yeah, the music is the same, and so she thought that would be sort of a great career capping thing. It's probably not going to happen. And nowadays she just doesn't. She's 82. She's married 25 years. She's got grandkids. The hustle in her has sort of, I don't want to speak for her, but you can tell the hustle in her has sort of quelled. She doesn't need it as much as she might have needed it years ago. I
mean, you would think that Barbara Streisand wanting to play Mama Rose and Gypsy is a no-brainer, right? You
would think, but not Hollywood. No. And remember, she's pitching it to people who are 30 years old.
Yeah, they don't. They probably don't even know what Gypsy is.
They have no idea what Gypsy is. They don't know who Mama Rose is. Someone tell me, when is it my turn? They have no idea. And they wouldn't know Natalie Wood. They think it was something you make your deck out of. Oh, it's so they wouldn't know. So it was a hard pitch, and I guess she got tired of pitching it. And, she follows the first rule of thumb in Hollywood that I never did, which is never use your own money for a project. But, that's why I'm broke. But, she wasn't, she has, she could easily come up with $40-50 million, but she's not, she's not dumb. She's not gonna. And she shouldn't have to, but, so I think you have to have energy and you have to continue to have that drive. And if you're not healthy, the industry is just going to be too heavy on you. It's just going to be too much. You're going to quit.
Yeah, I mean, the other problem with her funding it is there would be sort of this knowledge all the time that she funded it. It wasn't approved by the studios. And, You know, it would be this constant...
I don't think people today care about that shit. I don't really think that audiences care about where the money comes from. They have no idea where the money comes from. I didn't mean the
audiences. I just meant like people in the industry.
Well, she doesn't care about Hollywood. I never have. No, I don't either. You know, screw these executives. Getting it made.
That's true.
You know, the art of, and from that same song, the art of making art is putting it together.
Yeah.
You know, so however you get a project done, do it.
Yeah.
You know, and nowadays, if you have to fund it yourself, fund it yourself. If you believe in it, do it.
Yeah.
She's just old school. And when you've been famous for, she's 82, so she's been famous for 61 years. When you've been famous for 61 years, you kind of don't want to have to do it yourself.
Right. You know, I can totally relate to you when you've said that now being a 60-year-old white man in entertainment is the thing you're fighting against, because it's exactly the same for me. I mean, as soon as
I'm not a 24-year-old non-binary, trans, gay.
Yeah, right.
You're whatever.
One of those things, and those are the things that are favored right now. And
they're checking boxes.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, well, we want, because their one thing that they do is going to be their whole diversity. I was told by the Moto Council once, the Motorcycle Council, I said, you know, they would put me on all these bikes and everything. And I would say, you know, you need to do gay outreach. It's gay pride. And they looked at me and said, you are our gay outreach.
Oh,
and you know, and so I checked that box for them. You know, look, we in the motorcycle industry, we're not homophobic. We service Karel. It's like, yeah, but nobody else. You know, and so nowadays, a company, whether it's an entertainment company or just a regular company, they're looking at a hire to check like a whole bunch of boxes. Are you female? Yes. Are you part Latino and part Black? Yes. Are you, you know, gender non-binary? Yes. Yeah. And so if one person checks all 5 boxes, that person gets the gig.
Yes. And in San Francisco, it's really blatant. I mean, like they actually give you, when you go to audition, before the audition, they actually give you questionnaires that you have to fill out with all of those things in it that you just mentioned.
Which is amazing, because for over a decade, I was the only gay host working in San Francisco on KGO. There were no other gay hosts working on radio, period, talk or FM. And then the 2 gay guys got an FM morning show, and I forget, Fernando and Greg, I think were their names. And they may still have a morning show, but then they were the other 2 gay people. They were on FM, I was on AM. And in a city known for its queerness, there were 3 gay people on the radio.
Amazing.
And that's pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah,
and now if they're gone, I don't know of any that are on the radio there.
So for people who don't know, I mean, you have had an illustrious radio career, right? I mean, you started down in LA with
they
Andrew,
call it
your
historic,
husband.
And some call it historic, some call it iconic. It just makes me sound old. But yeah, I always say I was gay in radio before it was fashionable, meaning it was a fight. There was nothing that sounded like us at all. No one that looked like us, no one that talked like us. And we got hired by the most conservative radio station in Los Angeles, thanks to David Hall. And we followed Dr. Laura. So it went Rush Limbaugh, Dr. Laura, and them being us. And we were a couple. We were the first gay couple in radio to ever have a drive time radio show. It had never been done in any market in the United States, period. It just hadn't happened. And in the world at that point, it hadn't happened. And so we were at KFI, and then Andrew died very suddenly in 2001. And I stayed at KFI for a couple of years and then went on to KGO, where again, I was the only gay talk show host working in the San Francisco Bay Area, heard up and down the West Coast on the #1 ABC station, and was there for a decade or more, and, you know, breaking the ground there. That's why today, when I see all these broadcasters that are queer or this or that, I just thought, you know, all you need to say to me is thank you. Because I remember being humiliated by bosses. I remember having people tell me, we'd love to program your show, but you're just too gay, and having no repercussions for that. Just being able to say that to somebody. You know, I came from before the Me Too. Mickey Luckoff at KGO was the biggest homophobe in the world, and he excused it by saying his best friend is gay. Yeah, his best friend is up on child charges for molesting a 16-year-old on a yacht. Sweater-wearing queer, Andrew and I used to call him. The very pernisticky sort of sweater wrapped around the neck, very, you know, whatever. But no, Mickey made rules for me in radio that today I could sue him for. You know, he can't be on the radio before 7 o'clock. Why? Because he sounds too gay. So I could never do middays. I could never fill in for Ron Owens or whatever. I was filling in for everybody, but I couldn't fill in for anybody before 7 in the evening because Mickey Luckoff at KGO Radio, who's a bastard, said, no, he can't. One time there was a Christmas party and, totally off the record Christmas party. People are showing their butt for this camera that got found on a table, or this girl showed her boobs. So I flash at my butt. Dr. Bill Wattenberg, another homophobe who actually was allowed to physically attack me.
I remember
after
that.
The KGO All-Stars. He wasn't fired for it, because his best friend was Mickey Luckoff. Well, he didn't like that I showed my butt at the Christmas party. I got flown up on Christmas Eve. I got reprimanded. No one else that did stuff for that camera got reprimanded, just me. And so for forever at KGO Radio, I had to jump higher, run faster, get better ratings. And when I had a hot mic incident, it gave them the excuse to get rid of me. Mickey, because he tried and tried, but I got protected by the program director, Jack Swanson, who is a great guy, and Trish Robbins, the assistant PD, who's a wonderful woman. Mm-hmm. They would protect me. They would say, no, you're not firing him. He's got the numbers. He's got the audience. He's the one people ask about, when we're out at events. You're not firing him. But finally, there was a reason that they couldn't say no to. And
the silly Joe the Plumber incident.
Yeah, fuck Joe the Plumber. I hope fucking Joe the Plumber drops fucking dead. I said to John McCain during a break after writing an editorial for the Huffington Post about how we need to end hyperbole. Let's stop all this lipstick on a pig bullshit. Let's stop all this Joe the Plumber who's not even a plumber. We're about to have an election that where the first African-American in the world, in the United States, may become president. Let's talk about real issues. I had just finished writing that at 8:45, and at 9:05, John McCain says during a break to me, I'm going to take Joe the Plumber all the way to Washington, and I'm pouring tea remotely. And they had put a brand new engineer on my show that night who left to go pee during the break and left the pod open. Yeah. And he was like 19 years old. Why are you putting a 19-year-old engineer on a remote show? It's beyond me. So they fired me, but the public outcry was so great that after a year and a half, they rehired me.
Well, because they don't pay engineers anything at radio stations, so they can't find people who know what they're doing.
Right. Well, a lot of engineers know what they're doing. They just take the low pay.
Yeah, I know, but it's such a cutthroat industry. I'm just blown away by radio and how one day you can be on top and the next day you're gone. And
that's everything. That's all. Tucker Carlson had no clue that his last show was that last Friday.
That's true.
I mean, you don't ever know. You never know. That's why David Hall used to tell us every show is for all the marbles. Never skate through a show. Yeah. Because you just never know if it's going to be your last.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I loved it when KGO put you on, and it was my favorite show. I also listened to Bill Wattenberg only because I found it strangely humorous.
Yeah. Well, if you knew him, you wouldn't have liked it.
No, I know. Yeah. And I loved it when they had you and Maureen Langan.
I love Maureen. Just had lunch with her last weekend. Yeah. She was here in Vegas doing The Laugh Factory. She's on WBAI now in New York, publicly funded. And she's doing a really big talent show this summer that I can't really talk about. But she posted. She teased America's Got Talent, but she hasn't. I know all the details. I can't share them. Okay. But just be sure you watch America's Got Talent this summer.
I will. Oh, wonderful. Great. And what about you? Do you have anything coming up that you're doing? You have this huge, you have your podcast and video show and everything that you do. The
podcast is still in the top 200 in Canada, United States.
I saw that today. You're 204 today.
I know. It's something. You think I could turn that into money somehow? But no. So I'm very blessed that I'm still ranking. There are 2 million podcasts available. And out of 2 million, I consistently rank in the top 200. That's, people would say, well, that's not very high. That's fine with me. That's out of 2 million. That's in the top 0.1%.
That's remarkable.
I'll take that.
Heck yeah.
And the fact that I just do this crazy, half hour where I just talk about whatever, I'm very fortunate about that. I'm going back and doing recording. We're doing a gospel house remix of a song I really believe in called Stronger Together. May 22nd, I'm going to LA and we're going to have a choir, and Thea's coming back in, and my friend Thea from Snap, and Morgan Mallory, who was on America's Got Talent, and my friend Daniel Charleston, who's in Pacific Opera Project. And we're going to have a choir of 10 voices. We're going to record it as a gospel house mix. We're going to release Married Men disco version before that, then follow it with Stronger Together, and then follow that with another single. So we'll get the single started doing again. I am pitching Weathering the Future, which is a show where I go to the 10 places in the United States that are going to weather the future the best. However, again, networks don't work like networks used to. It used to be you pitched an idea to a network, they gave you a series order and a budget, you went and did it, that was that. Nowadays, networks look for production partners where you bring them a completely finished show and then they slap their name on it.
Netflix original.
Yeah, right. And they pay X amount per episode, or they just pay like Netflix just pays by the stream. And so it's a very different world right now. Television is shrinking. Film is shrinking. The money for television and film, even though you hear about these billion-dollar deals and Netflix spending $1 billion on content, yeah, they're buying it. They're not producing it. They're buying it. To get content made nowadays, you almost have to find a production company that funds it and then brings it to a network and gets their money back that way. It used to be totally different. You used to be able to go to the network or to the studio with a film idea, and then they'd say, okay, we like this film. We're going to finance this film. Nowadays, no. To make a film, to make a movie, even an independent film, you pretty much have to go secure the funding, and then the studio agrees to do the movie. They help you with the funding and or pay some of it back, and then you collect on the back end, if there is a back end, and pay your investors back.
I see. So that way there's no downside for them.
Right. They have totally gotten out of the, legacy studios, ABC, CBS, MTV studios, all of them. They'll make deals with like Shonda Rhimes and stuff where they will give them production money up front. But these are people that have enormous shows already that are, Shonda Rhimes is a freaking industry. Bradley Falchuk and Ryan Murphy. They're getting production money up front when they don't need it. And that's just the way with everything. Rich people don't pay for shit. And people who have the money to produce things are actually given money by the studios. The people who don't have money to produce things are not given the money by the studios. So it's completely upside down. I know a lot of industry executives who are getting out of the industry because they just don't like the way that it's going.
Yeah. I went on a tour at Paramount, and I was surprised about how little work people there had to do. I'm like,
yes.
Are they going to shoot anything? I mean, nothing was going on. Absolutely nothing.
Well, that's because half of Paramount lot now is rented out. They're not all Paramount. When I filmed at Paramount, and I also did a show there, a concert with Grace Jones, it was so much fun in the pool area where they film all the water things, where they filmed the Star Trek and the whales and all of that. There's a giant pool area there at Paramount where they do a lot of water scenes, and it's got an enormous green screen behind it that's like 300 feet wide. And
it's
so
incredible.
I did a concert right in the middle of that pool with Grace Jones, and it was a wonderful thing called Tribal Trek. We had a grand and glorious time. But I used to also film a couple of TV shows there, Ultimate Revenge and Soap Dish and some other shows that I was on. And so I'd go to the Paramount lot, and it was busy as hell, and the commissary was always full. And nowadays you go there, they're freaking ghost towns.
It's a ghost town.
Yeah, they're ghost towns because half the sound stages aren't occupied because they charge so much money to use them that independent productions aren't using them, and major studios, major productions have moved. Vancouver, Georgia, various other places. So huge productions aren't even in LA anymore. And they're all over.
Yeah, I mean, even like 25, 30 years ago when I first started doing this myself, there was quite a bit that shot in San Francisco. I used to go to SAG auditions all the time. Then they had the strike, and then since then, absolutely nothing. It's all in Canada, still in LA, and Georgia. Georgia's a big thing because it's cheap.
Oh yeah.
And The Walking Dead helps that a lot. Too.
Well, I consider people in Georgia The Walking Dead, so whatever.
Yeah, no kidding. God. Yeah,
I'm ready for the red states to go by. Just leave, get out.
So you were at a show with Grace Jones.
Oh, absolutely. So cool. I've toured with a lot of people. Grace Jones, Bronski Beat. I've toured with Thea, my friend from Snap, who's celebrating 30 years of Rhythm as a Dancer. Yeah. I've opened for just really big dance or regular, artists. But yeah, Grace was fun. We got very high backstage. I first met Grace. Where is here, hold on.
Okay.
Earlier. Let's see, which camera are we on here?
The main one, I think.
There we go.
Yeah.
What? There. Over here.
Oh, that's better. Oh, wow. Oh, look at you. I've never seen a picture of you when you were young.
That's at the Grammys. That is a members-only jacket. That's at the Grammys in 1982, I believe.
Neat.
When I first met Grace, we were there together at the after party. I walked up and said, "I love your Issey Miyake dress." And the dress she had worn on stage was made out of bamboo. And I said, I believe it's in the Museum of Modern Art, right? And she's like, "You're the only one who knew." And I'm like, no, it's fabulous. And the outfit she had on with the big ponytail, was Issa Miyake. And so we hung out. We met then. I interviewed her for the R&B Report in the mid 80s to early 90s, and her limo hadn't shown up at, where were we in LA? We're one of those Mondrians or something. And so my friend Ken had driven me. He had a brand new Jeep Wrangler without the top on. And she said, I need to get to the recording session for Love on Top of Love. Dolph Lundgren's already there. Can you drive me? And I said, well, we're in a Jeep with no top on. And she's like, that's fine. So she had a big, huge ponytail dress on and everything. We get in the Jeep. We're driving down Santa Monica Boulevard. She's in the back. She suddenly stands up and holds onto the roll bar because she was enjoying herself. And we're on our way to see Herb Ritz, a photography icon of mine. And suddenly a guy pulls up next to us on Santa Monica Boulevard, as is wont to happen. These two Latino queens look over and goes, look, that drag queen looks just like Grace Jones. And she turns and looks down and she grabs her ponytail and she goes, I am not a drag queen. I am Grace Jones. And they like freaked out, like, oh my God, it really is Grace Jones. So we had that experience together. And then I a few years later, I opened for her and she remembered, you gave me a ride in a Jeep. Yes, I did. So, we had a grand time at the show as well.
So she really sounded like that in real life.
That's how she sounds. And now she's doing West Hollywood Pride, I believe, this year. It's either WeHo or LA. They got a bunch of people. Mariah Carey is doing it. So yeah, Grace is doing that. And she's doing a lot of Pride festivals this year, mainly because I think I don't want to say bored, but she loves to entertain. And, and the thing about Grace is this wonderful merging of modern art and music. Mm-hmm. Everything that she does is also art.
Yes.
Her clothing,
her body, her presence.
Well, she was painted by Keith Haring to go to a party. Yeah. And she showed up with Dolph Lundgren and his twin brother, arm in arm. And then she walks into the consulate. This is for the consulate. She walks into the consulate and she peels off her coat and she's naked except for her body is all painted by Keith Haring. So,
I think I remember that picture. There was a photo of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So she merges modern art with music. And I don't think there are many artists nowadays that really pay as much attention to art and artists that aren't musical art and artists as she does. Basquiat did things for her. I mean, she's had so many famous painters and famous sculptors do things for her, make dresses for her, make outfits for her, famous, couturiers who just want to design one-offs for her. So I really think that, there's just not another entity like her.
Well, she's so striking and so charismatic. And every time you see something, a picture of her or a performance, you have this well up of like feeling. Like sometimes it's uncomfortable, I have to say.
Sometimes you're tired. I remember waiting to see her at Lion Country Safari in Southern California. She was supposed to come on at midnight. At 3 a.m., a forklift comes on with a leopard inside a cage, and on top of the cage was her. So I'm sorry, the leopard was on top of the cage, and she was in the cage.
I think I remember seeing that
painted like a leopard. Oh, we were there, and so the forklift drops her, and she's doing Demolition Man. I'm a walking nightmare, a gossamer of doom. And here's this, there's this leopard, and we're just like, holy Christ! But like Madonna, she's never really started a show on time.
Oh, yeah. Well,
which I find horribly disrespectful, by the way. The same with Madonna. When Madonna came to Vegas 3 years ago, the show was at 8. She sauntered on stage at 10:30. Fuck you, Madonna.
That is so left. 80s. That is so 70s.
I would have left. And they took all their cell phones. So these people have been sitting there for 2.5 hours without their... No, that is so disrespectful of an artist to disrespect the audience's time.
Oh, I agree.
It's just so if I say the show starts at 8, it starts at 8. If you ain't in your seat, too bad, baby. Because I come from a world where you can't begin at 4:10 or 4:15. The mic goes live at 4:05, and you're either there behind it or you're not.
Yeah, if it's a radio show, you better be there. Yeah, because people tuned in to hear you.
God knows Andrew and I sped down Wilshire Boulevard, breaking more than a few laws, more than a few times, trying to get there from Long Beach on time. David's like, I'm not postponing the beginning of the show. You better get your ass here. 4:05, our intro music is playing, and we're running up from the parking lot.
That's so cool. I was just telling my wife the other day, in the 70s when we used to go to concerts, because I just went and saw Willie Nelson the other night. He actually started a little late, which surprised me.
But that's okay. He's 100.
That guy blows my mind. I just want to say right now, first of all, it was a great show. He only played for an hour, but what do you expect when you're 89 years old?
He's 89.
He's 90 today. Today's 90,
Happy birthday,
and he's on tour until October.
Right. That's what I said. If I'm on tour when I'm 90, you'll wait for me.
Love that guy. But in the 70s, and you probably remember this, I mean, if you went to go see a rock concert, they were at least 2 hours late because they were like had to get over their drug or whatever they were doing backstage.
Well, I did not go to rock concerts. I was a young gay boy. So,
that's right.
I saw artists who actually came out and sang, and R&B, hugely into R&B in the 70s and 80s. Well, even now. In fact, I'm going to see Stephanie Mills Saturday night. But, so R&B artists tend to be on time, unless you're Bobby Brown and you're snorting coke or something. But the R&B artists tend to be on time. So in the 70s and 80s, I was seeing acts like Confunction and Parliament and Gladys Knight and Aretha and just. So I can't even count.
I wish I had gone to those.
So many concerts.
The first concert I ever went to was, what's her name? Oh, I can't think of it.
I actually don't remember the first concert I went to. I've been to so many in my life. Because when you work for Billboard or Laundry Report or The Advocate and you're doing interviews, all the time and you're always at a show, I started doing that in high school. I started working at the high school press. So I started interviewing music artists when I was 16, so 1978.
Yeah,
I remember my first big play. My first big play was at the Pantages. I got on their media list in 1978, and I'm still on it. Yep. And it was Eartha Kitt in Timbuktu. And I had no idea why when Eartha came out, I was 16, Emily Johnson drove because she had her driver's permit. I had no idea that when Eartha came out, and she's dropped by these beautiful, gorgeous men. And she goes to the edge of the stage and she kicks her leg out. She puts her hands on her hips and she says, I am Salim Laloum, why the vibes to the wazir? Welcome to Timbuktu. I had no idea why she got a 10-minute standing ovation. I'm like, okay, that was a good line, but why? And it was because that was her first American performance after being ostracized by Lady Bird Johnson and being blacklisted for almost 2 decades because she had the nerve to tell Lady Bird Johnson at the White House that she didn't think it was right that they were sending black people to fight their war when black people were not equal economically or socially. And allegedly she made Lady Bird Johnson cry. After that, the FBI blacklisted her. Everybody. She could not get a job anywhere except out of the country. That's why she was only on Batman for 2 episodes as Catwoman. She got blacklisted by Lyndon Baines Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson.
Oh, she was the best Catwoman.
She was, but only 2 episodes.
I was a huge fan. I've seen all those episodes, and I remember her
I was
episodes.
with Eartha Kitt the night she found out how old she was. We were in Orange County. She was doing the Secrets from Center. I've interviewed Eartha probably 6 or 7 times. It was just a fun interview. And she had told me during one of the interviews that she was born, as a sharecropper's daughter and that they didn't have a birth certificate. And so she never knew the year or date that she was born. Well, that was well known. And so some rabid fans of hers back in the late 90s or early 2000s actually dug up documentation about her and found her birthday. And they came to the Secrets from Center and presented her with the documents to show her how old she really was. And I was with her when she learned that she was in her 70s.
Well, that must have been moving. Wow.
It was something, actually.
Yeah. Wow, incredible.
I'm not sure that I want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, she was so funny. She was so funny. Tell me what you think of Barbra Streisand, Eartha. She's done very well with that one note. What about Madonna? She's an interesting businesswoman. Well, no, she's a singer. Like I said, she's an interesting businesswoman. We would have so much fun all the time.
I just remember the first concert I went to, Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's what it was.
Do you remember?
Yeah, they were great. I saw them again recently. They were lip syncing to a recording, but that's okay. They're all like 90 years old.
Philip is still alive, but Maurice White isn't. And I'm not sure Philip can still do the.
Oh, that's nice.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, it sounded like they were doing it, but then all of a sudden I heard a female voice and I realized, there's a backing track going on here. So
the Emotions aren't around anymore either, and the Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Emotions, Boogie Wonderland is perhaps the best song ever.
Yeah, they sing that. They sing that. Yeah.
I find romance when I start to dance in Boogie Wonderland. Oh, yes.
Oh, you're sounding good today.
I grew up with Philip Bailey and the Emotions. See, I saw the Emotions back when they had When Will I See You Again?
Oh, I love that song.
Oh, yes. And Frida Payne, Now That You're Gone. I saw her sing Band of Gold. Oh yeah. That's who I grew up going to see.
Hey, I have to tell you, the other day, I mean, I guess it was a couple months ago, maybe, you played a clip from you and Andrew doing that thing at Burger King or McDonald's.
Oh, McDonald's, my McDonald's. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was laughing so hard. I was in the gym. I was cracking.
Still very talked about segment where I did that because my late roommate, Gary Alexander, used to work at that McDonald's, and Gary died of AIDS. And we were looking for ideas, and I told my program director, David Hall, I said, well, my late roommate, Gary, used to always want to tell the people at the drive-thru what he really thought of them. Yeah. But he couldn't, of course, because he wanted to keep his job. And I knew the owner of the McDonald's because Gary had worked there for a decade, John Fosnight, who happened to be gay. He's dead now too. And so I talked to John. I said, look, you can't clear this with corporate because they're going to say no.
Right.
But he said, no, come on and do it. So Andrew and I went down with our staff, and we mic'd the Joe Talbot guy, not Joe Talbot, it was Tony Dinkle, who just passed away here in Vegas. Great engineer, fabulous engineer.
Oh, yes. I remember you saying
Tony Dinkle he could take a coat hanger into a closet and put you on air. So he mic'd, and we said on the menu that we're live on air, but it was just a menu item. We had to read it. And of course, I worked the drive-thru, and we were only supposed to do it for 45 minutes, and we ended up doing it for 3 hours. And it was one of the most fun that I've had. But because I did it as an homage to my late friend Gary, who passed away from HIV/AIDS. And, it was sort of like, I'm going to do what he always wanted to do for him. The day after, John Fosnight got called to Taco Bell corporate. Of course, he owned to McDonald's. Of course, he owned 5 McDonald's, including the ones inside Disneyland. And he got called up to McDonald's corporate. And they said, we would love to chastise you. We would love to take some sort of repercussion. The only problem is the phones haven't stopped ringing all day with everyone saying how fabulous it was and how much they enjoyed it. So McDonald's corporate LA was going to reprimand him for letting me do it, but they had such an overwhelming response to it that they had to just leave him alone. So, and we never found out until a year or two later that McDonald's had been called all day long at their corporate office about our gig. Also, we found out, what's his name? Why am I forgetting his name? Late night host David Letterman worked at a fast food restaurant on his show. We found out that his producer heard me at the McDonald's and took that idea to Letterman, and then Letterman did it. Letterman did that, working a drive-thru, because of my show.
Oh, wow. That happens a lot in radio, where a lot of things are innovated and people steal it and they don't know.
Particularly in LA radio, where I have, I just met someone here in Vegas the other day. I was out having lunch at a vegan restaurant here, and they recognized my voice. They're like, oh my God, you came on right before Phil Hendry. I work in the industry. I'm a set dresser, and, blah, blah. I mean, there's an animated show called Queer Duck, which is me. Mike Reese, one of the creators of The Simpsons, used to listen to our show. And he wanted to do this show about me and Andy. So he created this cartoon called Queer Duck at the time for Icebox, which was an early website that did web animations in JavaScript. And so he created the show. He wanted me to be the voice. I went and auditioned for it because he goes, look, I have to have you audition because it's the studio and, not me. And the only reason I didn't get it and Jim J. Bullock did is because I could only do one voice. Nice. And Jim J. Bullock could do 5. So he got the part of Queer Duck, even though it's me. And that show went on to be on Showtime. And Ollie Gator and all the characters in the show was based on what Mike Reese would hear us talking about our friends.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Never got a dime for it, but oh well.
So common. So in case people don't realize, I mean, you were working at the drive-thru, and Andrew you had an earpiece or something, and he was telling you, he was like suggesting what you could say to the people ordering the food.
They always had him do that. Like when I was homeless.
You were razzing these people.
Like when the lady ordered the fried fish and the French fries with a Diet Coke. I'm a bitch, you want the milkshake, just have it for the love of God. Great. So because that people are absurd. Or when these Hispanic gentlemen, I could never get away with it today, but these Hispanic gentlemen came through and they had this huge Mexican accent, and I said, honey, you think this is El Pollo Loco? That's up the street. It's like, this is McDonald's. We serve burgers. We don't serve the flame broiled chicken. So, no, I want a burger. And I'm, well, then you don't want an Abbott Gaysa, then you want a Big Mac. Say Big Mac. So so we did that. When I went out and was homeless, I saw one day there was a woman that decided she was going to see how much money she could get with a particular sign. And I thought, well, I wonder how much each sign makes, like if honesty counts on the sign. And we had heard that the homeless people switched their signs amongst each other and share dogs and children and stuff to try to get more money. So I said, well, I want to go out with 3 signs. We'll work for food, we'll work for booze, or please give me money for food, please give me money for booze, or please give me money for pot. And I want to see which sign gets the most. So we had a Hollywood makeup artist. I was doing a show called Ultimate Revenge with Ryan Seacrest and Mark Summers. And we had the makeup artist from that show come over and do my makeup. And it was so good that the security guard that was supposed to go out to protect me actually threw me out of the KFI building because he thought I was a real homeless person. Wow. So I'd go out on the corner of the metro station at Wilshire and we're across from the Wiltern Theater. And the pot made the most money, the pot sign. But I found out how aggressive homeless people are about their territory. That's the first thing. And number 2, I found out that people do not look at homeless people. I stood at the top of a great escalator coming from the down underneath trains, saying hello to people as they streamed out on both sides of me, and nobody looked at me. Nobody spoke to me. No one looked at me. And it showed me how we all overlook these people. We don't look at them. I say hello to every person I meet, including the homeless. And many homeless in Desert Breeze Park will attest to that. I know all their names. I ask their names. They're people. They're humans, and they deserve to be addressed. And I don't care that you don't like their living situation or that they stink. I don't care. They're human. I address animals, though. I talk to grackles. I talk to anybody, dogs, whatever. If it's a living thing, it deserves to be addressed. But I learned that they don't address you, and so then Andrew was in my ear. I was supposed to do it for an hour, ended up doing it for 3. And Andrew's in my ear saying, well, sing a song. And he would say, sing Billie Jean. And so suddenly I'm out there singing Billie Jean or whatever. And no one ever thought it was weird that I was talking to myself, even though I was talking on the radio, because I was homeless. And so they just thought I was fucking crazy. So, so I would be talking to him and the listeners were calling in and suggesting I do things. Then Andrew said, say praise Jesus a lot. See how much money you make. Oh my God, the money started rolling in. I was like, wow. Praise Jesus. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. And money just started rolling in.
Incredible.
I subsequently, when I was done, I had collected over $200 in 3 hours. I thought, well, this ain't a bad gig. But I subsequently gave it to a homeless veteran whose area I had taken over with my wheelchair and everything, because I brought a wheelchair and the whole thing. And I gave it to this homeless veteran that was there. I said, here, have this money. He couldn't understand why I was giving it to him. And then finally I pulled off the wig and I said, look, I was doing a bit. Well, I thought you were one of us. I go, I was homeless for over a year. So trust me, I was one of you, but just not today. Knock wood. I'm lucky enough now to have a home.
Yeah.
But, it was great fun. And every time they would send me out and Andrew would stay behind and talk to me in my ear and tell me what to do or what to, things to say to people.
No, I haven't heard any of those. I would love to hear the homeless ones.
Oh, they're hysterical. They're fun. The Scientology
Do you still have
one
the tapes?
Oh yeah, the Scientology one is hysterical because I just got bored one day and I said, I want to go for a walk down Hollywood Boulevard. And so Tony Dinkle said, well, let's get me a remote van. So we went over and I just was talking on the radio while Andrew was at the studio. And the Scientologists were giving their quiz out in front of Scientology. And I thought, oh, I'll take this live on the radio. And they wouldn't let me. And I said, well, why won't you you're all here on the sidewalk? You're giving everybody the quiz. Why not give me the quiz? Suddenly, 5 men in black suits are surrounding me on the public sidewalk.
Wow.
And I'm like, what's going on here? And we're going to have the head of the church come down. And I don't need the head of no goddamn church. First of all, you ain't a church. Y'all crazy. But, so they called the police and the police roll up listening to me on the radio. And they get out of the car and they go, and the first thing the cop says is, Karel, what are you doing? And I said, I just wanted to take this test. They're out here on the public sidewalk giving it to the public, but they won't give it to me. And so these men are surrounding me and the cops are all, why are you surrounding him? He's on a public sidewalk. Plus he has an LAPD press credential. So he's allowed to be wherever he wants to be. So clear away from him. So and all of this is going out live on KFI, all of it. In fact, you can Google Karel Scientology and the audio is still out there from the anti-Scientologist.
Okay.
Because it all went out on the radio about how crazy they treated me. And then how the cops came and how it just all went crazy after that. And they never did let me take the test. And I still believe they're all insane. So I guess it's a fair sort of trade.
Yeah, well, it's a cult. It's a cult of
they're
cults.
all cults. The Catholic Church is a cult, largest child rape ring in the world.
I agree.
I hate that Joe Biden professes Catholicism. It's like, so you're a member of a child rape ring? Good for you.
I grew up as a Catholic.
So did I. And left promptly when they didn't screw me. I'm like, what? I mean, that's the ultimate rejection.
Yeah,
you're
what's
screwing
wrong with
everything.
me?
Right. Oh my God, for years I went to a therapist. He's like, why do you have low self-esteem? I said, the priest never touched me. And he's like, that's a problem. I go, well, they're fucking everybody else. It's like I gave him the wine, I gave him the communion wafers, nothing. Never laid a hand on me.
Okay, so now I have to ask you, are you going to come up and do some stand-up up here again?
I would love to. After COVID, everything got crazy and bookings got crazy. And now if you want to do a venue, they want you to put a guarantee up front. It's like, so you got to put down $2,000 or $4,000 if you want to go do a show and hope you make it back.
That's crazy.
And people like Cobb's Comedy Club and stuff, they're just not paying what they used to. There's no travel expenses. There's no, it's Bruce Lynch and I were just talking about this. It's very hard nowadays to get back out on the road unless you're backed by a Live Nation or someone who's going to pick up the tab for travel and for, meals and hotels and, things like that, because it can get expensive. And unless you're going to charge $100 a ticket, if you're at a 200-seat venue, you're charging $40. That's, what, $8,000? And if you're spending 2 or 3 or 4 on expenses, but yes, I want to. I am looking into some of the venues I used to do, the Raz Room, which is now called Feinstein's. Yeah. Something in San Jose. I'd like to do the San Jose Civic Auditorium. They have smaller venues there. Instead of the 4,000-seat venue, they have other venues there. But yeah, I'm certainly looking into it. Pride season is happening. We're going to talk to a couple Pride, San Jose Pride and others, and see if maybe we can get involved in those. So yeah, I'm looking to. Me and Ember are ready to get back out again.
Great. Well, we'd love to have you up here. Yeah. Well, it's been great talking to you, Karel. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And congratulations on your Ukrainian stage benefit. I think it's great that you do something for the Ukraine.
Oh, you saw that, yeah.
Today, 19 more deaths in the Ukraine. Yeah. This war has now been going on over a year. If it were a good white nation being bombed, we would have ended it in 20 minutes. I know. But the fact that it's Ukrainians that most of us don't know any, or, all people have to say is, oh, their president's kind of cute. It's like, whatever. But, people are dying, and the atrocities that Russia is committing are horrific and should not only be condemned by the world, but there should be action. The world, NATO should call Putin and say, you stop today or we bomb the fuck out of St. Petersburg. And if you even dare threaten us with a nuclear weapon, we will have you assassinated. You will wake up with a bullet between your head.
Well, like you said, if it was a Western European country, that's what we would have done immediately.
Yes, that's exactly right. So
it's Eastern Europe.
It's Eastern Europe, and our compassion only goes so far for people that we don't feel that we know or understand. I'm looking at Ukraine right now. I have a giant map on my wall here, and I know the complexities of it. I see what it borders, and I see how it, where Russia is and all of that. But that doesn't matter. What matters is they're killing innocent people. And Americans have an easy way of looking away from that sort of thing. 28 school children die, and the next day we're on to something else. Innocent people die in our country every single day at the hands. An Uber driver was freaking dismembered for delivering Uber Eats.
Really?
So innocent. Yeah, just 2 days ago. So innocent people die every day, and we've become numb to it. And that's the most dangerous thing that's happened in today's society, that we have now become numb to homelessness. We're just numb to it. It angers us. Homelessness is a complete failure of government, and we are government. So that means that homelessness is our failure. It's our failure. It's not their failure. It's our failure. It's unaffordable housing. It's no social safety net. It's all kinds of problems, and not adequate mental health care, treating alcoholics or drug addicts like criminals instead of like people who have an actual medical disorder. You wouldn't treat cancer patients the way that you treat alcoholics. It's the same thing. It's a medical disorder. In Europe, they register alcoholics. They register drug addicts as such. And when they get into these programs, they're not thrown out if they drink or if they do drugs, because they're a registered drug addict. They're a registered alcoholic. So they're allowed. Over here, we like to tell poor people, it will help you, but only if you live up to our conditions. Yeah. Just now, the bill that just went through with McCarthy, where they want to raise the age for food benefits. They want to, make sure you're doing this or that before they give you food. The notion that we would put regulations on how to feed people just shows what a horrible people we've become. And so the fact that we can turn away from in Chechnya, where there are gay concentration camps going on right now. Watch the movie Welcome to Chechnya, which just came out last year. These are concentration camps used by Hitler that are now being used in Chechnya for suspected gays. You don't hear the UN denouncing it. You don't hear any riots over it. We are able now to turn a blind eye to so much that it's taken the human part of us out. And that's really sad. And so every time I hear about 19 dead in the Ukraine, I think that's 19 families, that's 19 brothers and sisters and mothers, family pets that are being killed and destroyed in all of this. It's just a huge loss of life. And we can't let up on it. We have to continue to remind people it's happening and that they need our help. And so by doing your monthly stage thing, by talking about it, by putting it out there, you at least remind people that it's still going on, that people are still dying needlessly.
You know, any little amount that anybody can do, if all of us just did a little bit, it would make a difference. And, you know, I'm so happy that I have this vehicle where I can do that. And other people, whatever you can do, if you just do a little bit, if everybody did a little bit, it would make a huge difference. It's the same thing like with the diet.
I send $50 a month to Paws of War. Paws of War is a charity that helps rescue animals. Right now, they're working solely in the Ukraine. Yeah. And these are animals that have been displaced by war. Right. They, you know, people flee and they leave their dogs and cats and everything behind. And they just leave them behind.
Incredible suffering.
You know, they have nowhere to get food, water. And so this organization, it's called Paws of War. They go in and they actually bring food, bring water, get the pets. Now we've made this ridiculous rule here in the United States that we don't let animals come into the United States from countries that have rabies. And so we can't adopt a pet from the Ukraine here. It has to go through Canada and then come to the United States. But they're doing it. And so we are helping. And so I know that's not helping humans, but there's a lot of agencies, Red Cross and others, that are helping humans. So I choose to help the animals because no one's helping those except Paws of War. So that's why I support them. And besides, Ember likes that I do it. So
I love that you love your little doggy. I have mine isn't here, little Foxy.
Well, I mean, she's a real service animal. Yeah. So without her, my life would be completely different. And, you know, she works for me and, you know, facilitates a life that makes it easier for me to go out and have a life.
Yeah.
Worried about AFib, or I'm not worried about the various things that she can detect. And so, you know, I used to panic when I was out and all of a sudden I'd feel I was going into AFib and I'd panic and, you know, then we'd have to rush home. And now that doesn't happen because she tells me in advance what's going to happen. I'm able to medicate. I'm able to calm down. I'm able to remove myself from the situation for a moment. So she makes it possible for me to go out into the world more. So, you know, it's not just that I love her. It's that she's my partner. She's my partner in crime. And, you know, I'll be devastated when she passes. But the fact is that these service animals, they do a huge job for us. And we see people with them and that's not a service animal. Or, what kind of service do they do? None of your fucking business. That's what kind of service they do. None of your business. You know,
it's amazing how these animals can get tied into our emotions before we know we're having them, or our physical states.
They're finding they now can detect COVID. They're more accurate to detect breast cancer than the mammograms. In Europe now, they're using dogs to detect breast cancer. When they're searching for whales out at sea, they have dogs that do it now because they can smell whale poop for 4 miles out at the open sea. So before sonar can even pick up whales, dogs can.
Yeah.
So they're hugely intelligent, but so are pigs and so are cows. Yeah. And so I'm not a specious. It's why I'm a vegan.
I had no idea how much cows can be affectionate towards human beings until I've seen some videos. I had no idea.
They mourn their dead. They mourn their dead. Of course they form bonds with humans. I follow many on Instagram that have accounts. Spud the bull. He loves to play ball with his human. And, you know, the notion animals are sentient beings. We act like they're not. Right. But they are. They have emotions. They have pigs know when they're going to be slaughtered. They know when their babies are being taken. Cows are in terror when they're on the way into the slaughterhouse. Yeah. People eat tortured animals because the animals knew they were going to die.
Right.
So, you know, no, it's not just dogs. I love my dog, God bless her. But, you know, all animals, we need to respect them. I don't even kill insects anymore. Nothing should have the death penalty because it meets me. So if I see if I see a spider or if I see a bug roaming around, even a roach, you know, whatever, I catch it and throw it outside because it's not up to me to decide if that creature lives or died just because it encountered me. Yeah. You know, so, and the same with food. Nothing should have the death penalty because I have to eat. That's ridiculous. There's other things to eat now.
Yeah. My son and I found a roach the other night. We 2 nights ago. We picked it up and put her outside.
Right. That's, I mean, yeah, they're icky and they're gross or whatever, but they don't think we look that cute either. So, it's like I went in the other night and there was one in the sink because they come up through it's just natural for animals to come out, bugs to come out of your sewer pipes. It just it happens to Oprah. It happens to everybody, and I saw one in the sink and I got the glass and put it over it. And I'm on, now you stand under that glass, bitch. I mean, and so, I took it out to the patio and threw it over. Now I do live upstairs, so I do throw them over the patio, but bugs, they're fine. They drop to the ground. They don't die. No, I'm like, you're gonna go for a short little fly here, and then you're gonna hit the ground.
Maybe they enjoy it. Maybe it's like a roller coaster,
like a thrill ride. Maybe that's why they come back. Let's run back up and get him to throw us out again. Yeah, that's exactly right. I've created a bug Disneyland here.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. All right.
Really appreciate it. Okay.
See you on the radio.
Yep. Talk to you later. Karel is so interesting. I'm so glad he was on the show. I've been wanting to have him on for a long time. Very, very happy that he agreed to be a part of it. Hey, if you enjoy this show, please tell your friends. Say, hey, check out Green Room on Air podcast. It's pretty darned cool. Yeah, it will help me a lot to have more listeners, and I'll have more time, and I'll be able to put more effort into having even better programming for you all out there. And if you can, please go onto your iPhone and go to the podcast page on the podcast app, and you just go to the bottom and you just say, rate this show. And you can do that and just give me some stars, and you can even put in a description of why you thought it was 5 stars or not. But the more I have of those ratings, the more I can put into this production. So I would really appreciate it if you'll just go in there and do that. It'll take you between 5 seconds and 60 seconds. I've done a study. Thanks so much for listening, and I will catch you next week. This show will also be up on YouTube, on Green Room on Air, within the next day. And until next time, you know what? I will see you on the boards. Thank you very much.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times can roll.